The events of 2020 have impacted millions of people worldwide, one being the COVID-19 pandemic nearly infecting 13.7 million people around the world and counting. Additionally, race relations have bubbled to the surface in the United States to the point where people are saying enough is enough. One generation in particular are coming of age in a time of dramatic national change, Generation Z. Today we're going to hear from 4 teenagers aging from 16 to 18 and how the various events of 2020 have affected them. First, we're going to hear from Kambrie Kearns. Kambrie is a rising senior at Chesterfield High School in Chesterfield, South Carolina. Listen as she details her experiences during 2020 and what affected her most.
Major predicament of 2020 for me in particular has been COVID-19 because it cut my junior year short last year and is also to ruin our senior year, which kind of makes me sad because we're not going to have sports the way we usually do. We're not going to have clubs the way we usually do, and that's a big part of what I do in school. I'm only going to have 2 classes this year while I take tech classes, but also the clubs and the sports would be most important to me this year.
Next, we're going to hear from Jane Kovac. Jane is 16 and a rising junior at Calhoun Academy in St. Matthews, South Carolina.
The events of 2020 have impacted my life in a drastic way. 2020 has been a very eventful year, from the death of Kobe Bryant to everyone scared that World War III was on the horizon, to the Australian fires, and finally to the coronavirus. Though all of these events have impacted my life, the coronavirus has changed my life the most.
Next, we're going to hear from Jacob Bartlett. Jacob is a senior at St. James High School in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
What have I learned from COVID-19? COVID-19 has taught me many things. One of them is that we need to be more aware of what we do and how we socialize with people. Personal space is very important these days, more than ever. It should be, because we need to protect our own health, mandated by the government. But it also has taught me that we can do things differently than normal, different things that we can try to do normal but fun. Overall, we just need to wash our hands, work together, try to stay safe, and overall, do great things.
Next, we're going to hear from Anaya Nelson. Anaya is a rising senior at Kambrie High School in Summerville, South Carolina. When I think about all the events that have transpired within 2020, one single event doesn't really stick out, but rather all of them. From the coronavirus quarantine on my mental health, to the lasting effects on my friendships, relating to the Black Lives Matter movement, and so on, I think rather than saying 2020 is one of the worst years ever, I think it might be one of the most important. When we talk about the events of 2020, it's always what affected you most, but never really how you felt about it. When I'm asked how I feel about 2020, I always don't really know what to say because I haven't really thought about it. During quarantine, I kind of fell into a depression because all of my end of the year activities got cut short and I wasn't interacting with anyone. And then whenever these protests were happening, I got really scared and was really afraid to simply leave my house because I thought that I was going to get targeted because I'm a Black teenager in the South. And then now I just kind of have a lot of anxiety towards almost everything, like going to school, going outside, interacting with people, seeing if I'm contracting the virus into my house and to myself. So there's really a lot to think about and a lot to unpack.
The coronavirus has impacted everyone's life in some way. It affected my life because it caused all of the schools to close down and forced us all to continue our education online. I wasn't allowed to leave my house for weeks, which made it very hard to keep in touch with my friends and family. Having to follow the social distancing rules and wearing masks everywhere you go can make things very difficult. But the worst part of it all is the unknown. Not knowing when it's all going to be over, not knowing if the class of 2022 is going to have a senior year at all, and not knowing what the future will look like.
And I included have gathered together, not more than 10 people or anything, but during this whole COVID thing, because we can't go without seeing people this long. It's kind of ridiculous, and I feel like we could figure out a way to do sports and figure out a way to do clubs, but I also feel the danger part of how we could all get sick. We could all be exposed, or we could expose it to people in our home who are more vulnerable.
The last few months have been tough on all of us, especially tough on high school students. My heart really went out to all of you, but particularly the senior class and junior class, because of the moments that you're missing in high school, that all of us can tell you what happened at our prom and what happened at our graduation ceremony. But I'll say that the lemonade that can come out of these lemons that we're going through is that when you do go through hard times, and I've had some hard times in my life, if you do it with a right attitude, you can become a better, stronger person.
Like Jane said, the worst part of 2020 isn't what's already happened. It's not knowing what's ahead.